Hello, everyone. I think that we can start this session. In advance, I would like to let you know that if you have any questions, it is up to you how to proceed. You can directly ask me. You can write it in a Q&A window. And if you prefer, also we can discuss it at the end. My idea is this session to be maximum useful for you. So it is mostly up to you how to proceed. It is not a problem from my side. In any case, we will have some time at the end, but if you have some not interesting questions, but questions which are important for you, any moment you can ask me and we can go into discussion. So let's start. Thank you for coming. And also I would like to say a big thank you to all partners who are very important to have SQL Day this year. For the first time virtual, but I think that we will have one very nice event, even in situation where we will be not able to sit side by side and to discuss in person some details. I will not spend a lot of time as introduction, but few words about me. My name is Mihail Mateev. I'm from Sofia, Bulgaria, and work on Azure probably more than 10 years and on Power BI from the beginning. I'm not a DBA. My background is mostly from the developer side. So I used to be probably 15 years developer before to switch to architect. And last 6-7 years, I work mostly on different Azure-based solution. This session is pretty specific. It is related to how to create custom visuals in Microsoft Power BI with TypeScript and D3js, but the most important is to have an overview on some concept, and depending on your background and your questions, of course, we can go more deeper in details in some areas. But the most important for me is to give you the right message, exactly when is reasonable to use custom visuals, and also how to do this in the simplest way. This is the most important, and hope that we will have a really good session related to most important moments around Power BI custom visuals. The overview of this session includes introduction, where we will talk a little bit more about why and how we can use Power BI custom visuals. After that, we will take a look at actually main parts of visual project. I mean the project which is used to create Power BI custom visuals. We will take a look at some more important source files, which is good to know when you talk about this. We will have some discussions about how to consume data, how to bind data, because this is one of the most important things. We will also demonstrate some Power BI visual tools, because there are some specifics depending on what you do, and a little bit more details about data view, one of most important part of our data model, which is related to Power BI and what we present using custom visuals. Some good practices related to debugging, and also some good practices related to how to submit Power BI visuals to app source and distribute it inside your organization and outside. And around this also we will talk a little bit about certification of Power BI visuals. And we will have some demos at the end. So let's start with some introduction. In general, the most important is to understand why we need Power BI custom visuals. You have experience with data platform. If you are in this conference, I suppose that most of you have more or less experience with Power BI. You know what is Power BI visual, all these components which we use to build our reports and dashboards. And we have palette with different visuals. We have out of the box visuals which come with Power BI. We can also add some Power BI visuals which can be free or paid, but we also can create our own custom visuals. What is the most important around custom visuals? Why we need such kind of solution? When you use some third party or offered from Microsoft visuals, you have actually this visualization and implementation which is already defined, and you need to adapt your reports and your Power BI content in accordance with these visuals. Yes, it is something which is probably partially limitation because you need just to choose from these components, but from another hand, also you have no understanding how these visuals work inside. What I mean, if you are using, for example, Power BI embedded capacity, which is another one of my favorite topics, it is pretty specific how you will have behavior in your visual components to be possible to have more economical consumption of Power BI resources. So from one side, you can have your own custom visualization. From another hand, you can have cheaper and better performing reports in Power BI if you are using custom visuals. To prepare custom visuals which are done following all good practices in a book, like you have recommendations in Power BI documentation and some guidances, and to cover everything to make these Power BI components with a quality and functionalities like commercial components, sometimes is overhead. Quite often, we have much simpler tasks where we need to visualize something specific in a specific way to make it to perform pretty good. And you can have actually implementation which is much simpler without covering everything which you need to have to produce component which is the same like out of the box offered components or some commercial components. So this is the most important regarding to the use cases. Custom visualization, more practical and more and better performing cases when you have actually custom visuals. And we will see also how we can distribute these visuals, because from one side you will be able to create custom visuals in any case, even if you have no any Power BI paid license. For creation of visuals, it is not needed. But you can have also distribution of your visuals in a different way. You can distribute your visuals inside your organization. You can distribute these visuals using marketplace or app source, as it is named in the context of Office 365 and Power Platform solutions. And in this way, you can make your components available for users inside and or outside your organization. This is the most important. To start work on custom visuals, we need to have actually some prerequisites. We have no time for this session to demonstrate all prerequisites, but in general, to create Power BI custom visuals, you need to have Node.js and projects which actually are used to build custom visual and to test it are related to Node.js projects. You will have with installing of Node.js actually local server which will be used for this purpose. Additionally, you need to know that for custom visuals, you can use almost any JavaScript library. But why we are talking about D3js? The point is that D3js is a JavaScript library, very popular for visualization for different charts, which is used to create Microsoft Power BI components. And based on this, you can just modify created components using Power BI tools over Node.js with Power BI SDK without need to have any significant changes in your project. This is the most important. From another hand, because D3js has many components implemented using this framework, many different charts and other visualization components, it is pretty easy to lift and shift these components. But again, you can use also any different JavaScript library for visualization, for UI representation of your data, and it is doable. Just you need to have more work and to change a little bit more the structure of your projects. This is the most important, which is related to D3js. This is the reason most of tutorials related to custom visuals to be related to D3js. But you can find also many samples related to React components for Power BI, Angular components for Power BI. So it is absolutely possible. Additionally, there is something which is very important, and it is TypeScript. TypeScript is used for Power BI components. It is not necessary to use TypeScript, but by default, it is used because actually it is easier, especially for people who have experience with strongly typed languages. Even most of people working on a data platform have experience also with mainly languages which are strongly typed, like .NET-based languages like Java and everything around data platforms. So it is easier usually to proceed in this way. But I will show you it is absolutely not necessary to use TypeScript. It is possible to create components also having pure JavaScript. This is something which is good to know. TypeScript use TypeScript compiler. For many of you, probably it is pretty clear, but the main case is that we actually cannot use this code written on TypeScript without to build our project, because we need to have as output at the end some JavaScript. So it is something which is related to similar flow. We have strongly typed TypeScript. We will have our logic there, and even templates are created using this approach. After that, when you build your project, the output is JavaScript. If you want to have implementation based on pure JavaScript, you have two possible options. First option is to write pure JavaScript in your TypeScript code. It is possible, TypeScript file, or you can just modify the output file. But if you modify the output file, of course, rebuilding of the project can replace what you have like output. So here you need to be pretty careful. Additionally, in Power BI, we have some tools which are very useful. We will see a little bit later how you can use Power BI custom visual tools in powerbi.com, and you will be able actually to load custom visual. When you load custom visual, it happens in a flow for which we also have no time for details, but you need to install Node.js, you need to install Power BI SDK, which is Node.js based, and you need also to install certificate from Power BI site, which will allow you in Power BI to have actually trusted origin, which will be your local Node.js server, which is very important. So when you have this setup, which I already did, it is possible to configure your Power BI environment in powerbi.com to use custom visuals. You can go to settings, we will see in the demos, and to enable developer visual for testing. Always you can have by default one running Node.js server. You can have custom setup where in your local machine you can have many Node.js servers working on different ports, but it will be a case for powerbi.com because it works with default settings. So in any case, during the development from your machine, it is recommended to not try to serve from several different servers your visuals, because it will be something quite challenging. Even I never tried to configure it from the powerbi.com site. And we will see a little bit later, of course, how everything works. You have for custom visual tools which are pretty simple but useful. You can reload component. Reloading of the component is something which is very important in the context of consumption of Power BI resources, especially for embedded capacity projects. So each reloading actually is related to additional requests to your Power BI server. When you use Power BI Premium, for example, or you just share your dashboards using Power BI Pro, it is not so critical. But when you have embedded capacity, it is also pretty important. You have also auto reload. You have watch. Watch is important to be possible to see exactly what you have in your data view. And you have also option to download your JSON structure, which is related to actually data view bound at the moment to your component. It is something which also is good like concept to know. I do not recommend if you want to make anything custom to try to have custom reverse engineering related to requests and response against Power BI service. It is always much simpler and supported from Microsoft, which is the most important, to have standard response request. And when you receive your data in your client, doesn't matter if it will be web client, powerbi.com, some custom application, or Power BI desktop, you will be able actually to have binding which is related to logic in your component and custom visualization. And this is the right way to customize everything which you receive from Power BI service. It is the only one way where you will have support and you will never consider what will happen with next versions of Power BI if they change something, add some additional data structure, or remove some data structures from protocol which is used to send response data against Power BI service. So this is something which we will see a little bit later. And by default, you have just pretty simple component which counts refreshes. We will build custom components starting from here. If we talk about lifecycle, it is good also to consider several things. We have first initialization. So we have init method where we need to create most of the things in our component. After that, most of logic is in update method. And this is the main place where we actually add additional logic and we have many interactions. Every time when we have additional request against Power BI service, we have update and we can add our code into update method to parse our data, to make some data processing and some specific visualization. And in the end of the life cycle, we have destroy. Actually, Power BI custom visuals are specific web components which are based on top of JavaScript libraries which communicates with Power BI service. That's the reason to have some behavior pretty simple to behavior which is typical for web components, but you are not able just to put these components in web applications. You need to have specific data structure which is typical for Power BI, and you can just map your visuals and to have everything on top of this structure. So how works data binding. It is something which is also very important, and we need to answer several questions here. Actually, how data is binded to different functions. It is something which you need to know when start to work on custom components. You need to know that drawing is made inside the update method. This was the reason to notify especially this update part in the schema, because update method is the main place where you have everything related to visualization. And also update method um, have arguments, and we will see these arguments actually represent your data model and data view, which we have. You can have many data views. By default, components use one data view, the default one, but of course, you can manage this using your code. And you will be able via these parameters actually to access all the data for visualization, which is passed when you create your project. So when you use Power BI desktop or powerbi.com and you are using drag and drop to create your reports, actually you have this modeling of structure which is needed for your visualization, and what you configure actually can be passed in this way. And Power BI components use this structure. Update method receive like parameters options with data views, and you have everything which is needed. And you can have array of data views. You can make some changes, but by default we have one, and this is the first one, and we use it in most of cases by default. So our update method is something like this one. And you see here we have in the code some, I can say, mandatory part. It is not mandatory in general, but it is mandatory if you want to have representation based on your data model. You can have here some hard-coded logic, which has nothing related to your Power BI data model, and your component can represent something absolutely different. But in the context of Power BI, you need to actually parse settings, and here you have options, data views, and first data view, which is actually the default view which we have. And we have additional logic in update method, which can be used for different purposes. Additionally, you can see when we have data bindings, actually different structure in our data view. Our data view is actually representing the data model, and you can see it like JSON structure. And in JSON structure, you can have metadata, you can have also different categories which is used. You can see actually structure based on column splitting. You have also the data which will be bound. This is something which you will see from the beginning. And when you have, for example, categories, something which is pretty typical for creating of Power BI reports, you will see in your data model something like this, categories, and you will have values, and you will have values which are passed based on our report design. This is something which you have passed like part of model to your component. And you have also additionally table rows where you have actually mapping between categories and some values like tuples here. So it is something which is good to be initially considered to understand how components works. And when you understand how components work, it will be much easier actually to create your components. Let's see for our components what kind of structure we have. I will show you on the demos how we will create with Power BI tools, Power BI Node.js tools, structure of the project. And in this structure, you have actually set of folders. From one side, you have assets. Assets is a folder where you have icons, screenshots, such kind of things which are can be used like content, but it is not related to some logic. This is a folder where you have packages for distribution. If you want to distribute your component in any project, you need to create a package. This package should be used in any case, even if you import using Power BI desktop, or if you create some actually components for app source. In any case, you need to have this package to be possible to embed your custom components. Additionally, you have source folder where is your TypeScript code, which is quite important. Styles are in style. We have some details which are for Git publishing, and we have also capabilities JSON. Capabilities JSON is pretty important to configure actually capabilities of your visual. You need to have a specific configuration here. And you have also package JSON, which is related to settings for package. We have PBI vs JSON, which is actually the main configuration file for your visuals, and settings for your TypeScript compiler are in tsconfig. So this is something which you have like structure. Again, it is pretty simple. Doesn't matter that you see 10 different folders. And we will take a look on several files after few minutes, especially related to our source code, TypeScript files, which we will have. And it is one of the most important parts. Another is related to visual styles. Visual styles actually are part of SDK, but you will be able also to create your own styles. So it is something which can be extendable. Let's see some specific things. For example, PBI with JSON, the main configuration file. So to be possible to create package, you need to add some information. Without this information, you will be not able actually to create this package. Name of the visual, display name, unique ID, some GUID, which will be the identifier, you have versioning supports. You need to have also some settings which are important for component publishing, like GitHub URL and some other things. So, in any case, you need to have these settings for publishing of your projects. Capabilities JSON. As I mentioned, capabilities JSON is one of the most important files. And in this file, you have some settings related to data roles, data view mappings, and some things related of support highlight and other things. We will see actually how it works. Most of properties, I can say even all, are optional. So it is possible to not set it and your component will have default behavior. But if you want to have more specific behavior, for example, if you choose some part of your diagram to have something, or if you have mouse over to have specific behavior, you can use some settings here. It is different to have settings here and settings in your styles. Both can be related to how your component will look. Here we have mostly configured settings during the design time. And you can see, for example, data roles. And you can see here, for example, fields which can be bound in specific way. It is something which is important. Which fields will be used for categories, which fields will be used for measures in our reports. You can describe here these specific data roles, and probably this is one of the important things. Additionally, in this file, actually, this description allows you to see in design mode these settings, as you can see on the diagram. So you will be able, basing of these data roles, to have settings which are controllable during the design time. And in objects, you have property panel options, which can be, for example, some kind of colors, names, and similar properties. Additionally, partial highlighting is also supported here. So we have some important features which can be set up during the design time. And when you pass through 1-2 custom components, for you will be not difficult to add additional logic for new components without significant effort. One specific note here: when you have some specific components for your behavior of the project, you can also think, do you need to have specific settings which need to be reflected into design mode here? Because if you have no need to have such kind of properties, for example, you need to represent something which is not changeable for specific report, you can just skip this part and your component will stay much more simpler. You can make it probably 10 times simpler if you have no need of such kind of custom logic. So next, actually file is settings TypeScript, where we have some mappings between some formatting options. It is also something which is related to our configuration during the design mode. So we have some default settings, we have some parsing, and these settings can be configured here. You can see the schema. Actually, for example, data colors for some chart can be configured in a similar way. So you can customize this again if you need to have this kind of changes, and if you need to reuse your components for different purpose. If you need to have the simplest one implementation for some not often changeable report, like from the design point of view, you can just skip these configurations. And few additional things before to go to demos. You need to import a specific interface, data view interface in your main file for visual. You need after that to actually have assignment of your parameters to your data view, and you after that can have in the update method different kind of data processing. Again, because of limitation of the time, I will be not able here to demonstrate from scratch some complex view. I have some complex custom component with very complex view, but we will see in general how everything works. About visual tools, I already mentioned that Power BI visual tools are actually framework based on Node.js. It will be downloaded and installed based on the instructions in Power BI documentation. Installation is pretty straightforward. I never had any issues. After that, as I mentioned, you need to have server certificate set up, and it is enough to start your development. For your development, you will be able to check many details about your data, exploring data view, something which I already mentioned from the beginning. So it is one of the most important components. It is the way to prove what is your real value, if you have some considerations about this. About debugging, we have some specifics again. About breakpoints, it is not possible just to add some breakpoints in a way like you do this for debugging of JavaScript applications. Why? Because actually your breakpoints will be lost. You have quite a specific component lifecycle, and you will have reloading of your code. So if you use the debugger statement in your code, actually you will be able in this way to have some debugging, but you will be not able in any case to use simple breakpoints. And you will be able also to have old-fashioned way of printing of your information. Unfortunately, it is a little bit more requiring old school approach and effort when you debug your components to see exactly in specific step what happened. But from another hand, you have good options to see the data model via PowerBI.com, so you can prove your origin data relative simple. Exceptions are also specific case. It is not possible to use simple exceptions because again you have approach where on top of specific framework you have custom code which is reloaded many times, and all errors actually for some specific request response will be eaten from Power BI service. It is done in this way intentionally because otherwise the whole Power BI service can be unstable if it stay to rise some errors. Even it could be possible option for attacks and vulnerability. So you need to have programmatically to add programmatically code for your exceptions. You will be able actually to have code where you will build your specific lock exceptions, and after that you can decorate methods in with your already created lock exceptions. This is the main approach. It is not possible to make it in an easiest way. Additionally, you need to have some insights about app source. Probably you are aware what is app source. App source is actually the marketplace related to Office 365 and data platform components. And you have a specific flow if you need to distribute your components. Why you need this? If you have packages, you can distribute these packages which contains your components also internally without app source. But your process of component distribution will stay more dependent on also additional work from administrators and people who will install these components, and you will be not able to have zero-touch provisioning for these components. So that's the reason, actually, even if you need some components for your organization, sometimes to go via app source, especially if your organization is a big one. If you go in this way, you need to follow a specific process. You need actually to do some prerequisites. For these prerequisites, you need actually to send a specific submission document with your Power BI component, which is already created, and you need to submit this to specific email address, which is described in documentation, and your component will be reviewed, will be tested, and after that, this component can be actually submitted to app source. To be submitted to app source, you will receive specific XML file for upload where you need to add specific settings for your component, for configuration of your component. It is required for submitting for app source. And it is good to know that actually approved for app source components and certified components are different. I mean that it is not needed to have certified component to have actually submitted into app source component. To certify Power BI Visual, you need to cover some additional requirement for certification, and you need to actually cover additional requirements, and it is mostly related to security and some additional specific things. If you have certified component, this component actually can be marked like trusted, and it is possible to drop this such kind of components also in different applications. It is actually such kind of recognition that your component work in the best way. If you have approved component but not certified, it doesn't mean that this component is bad. Just some additional requirements are not passed, and because of this, this component actually can be used, but it's not marked like certified. So we have few minutes for demos. For demo, I already have some preset things. So you can work with command line tools. I prefer PowerShell for console, but you need to have in general console. And in a place where you will create your visuals, you can type PBI vis, and you will see different options. I will try to make a little bit bigger shrift. If you need to create new component, you can say PBI vis new and the name of component, for example, SQL Day 2020. It will take some time to create the structure, but it will be probably 10-20 seconds, not much. Now we'll see we have this folder, SQL Day 2020, and if you want to start your just a second, Visual Studio Code application. I'm just trying to move it because opened a little bit more places. Okay, so you can see the pretty new project, and you can have capabilities JSON where you have the default structure. You have Visual TS where by default you have this update method. You again have these parsing parameters here, but you have just visualizing the update count value to represent that in any new refresh, you will increase one counter. Let's see now how exactly we will use this component. If we see PBIVs, you will see that we have PBIV start. If we say PBIV start, your Node.js server will start. It takes again a few seconds. And after that, I will go to powerbi.com. I will refresh my window because I opened the browser before this presentation. And I will actually check here in edit mode what we have for example, this component. How it happened in general, you need to have in settings, developer, here marked enable developer mode. This is the most important. And let's go back to our report. Here, now I will choose again edit to go into edit mode, and we'll choose this. You can see here developer visual. Developer visual, the component is pretty small probably for your screen, but this is actually the representation of visual component which is served from the local Node.js server. If you change it, here you can see update count. And if we try to refresh, it could be in several different ways. If we refresh it in this way, it will not work because we didn't save this. But if we make it in this way, making this component available, and here you will be able to see the code. You will be able to see actually our code. If we do some changes, depending on what we do, of course, and how is built the component, I will not save now this component, but depending on specific needs, we can simulate how to reload and to see that here number is increased. So in such kind of way, we can see the raw component which we created. If I choose the original component, we will go back to the settings which are by default. Now, at the end, I will create actually new will show the updated component. I will stop this server and I will go to another folder which is with our ready component, so circle card ready. Just I need to have the right name. And now I will show you with code in Visual Studio Code what we have already like updated options. We have here all visualization, which is needed. And we can see in the visuals also Visual TS. Just a second. We will see the updated logic, which is in update method here. In update method here, we have logic which is related also to styling. We have logic related to configuration of the size and other things. So in this way, actually, we have everything which is needed. And here, actually, we have creation of our visual with circle and other things. The last thing is starting of the updated component. Now, when this visual is served from the Node.js server, you will be able to see in our PowerBI.com visualization, which can be absolutely different from the initial one, pretty similar to the final one. So if I choose the custom visual, you will see here almost the same like in the original. I just changed formatting to recognize that it is not the original component. So you already realized that the code which we had is not so complex. You need to have some understanding about JavaScript and some basic understanding on D3js, and you will be able to have quite good components. At the end, I can say most of the things which I demonstrated, especially related to design mode, again, are mostly if you need to distribute your components. If you need some specific components for specific custom needs, your effort will be significantly decreased and you will be able to do this pretty easy. So to summarize, don't afraid from custom visuals. It is not difficult if you have one of the possible cases, specific visualization, need to increase performance or to decrease the cost of Power BI service, especially for embedded analytics, feel free to go ahead and to try Power BI custom visuals. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. We are a little bit after the schedule. Apologize for this, but you will be able to ask me now or anytime later using social networks or my mail. I will be glad to discuss with you any possible cases. Thank you very much. I do not see any questions, so thank you again. Appreciate your interest and enjoy the conference.